Hello, hello, hello. How is it going? It is great to see you today. Hello, Trezy. How are you?
Austin, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing pretty well, man. Doing pretty well. It is great to have you on this podcast. I was gonna like do a
It's
whole
great
like
to
little
be
spin
here.
around, like, oh, didn't see you there. Hello, Trezy. But
Trezy, who?
Trezy, who? Yes, man. But speaking of that, for those who don't know you, can you please give just a quick intro about like, well, your name, although I kind of already said it, and then
Yeah.
also just and also just tell us a little bit about yourself, all right, and what you do.
Yeah. So Trezy, I was telling Austin about this in the pre-roll, but I've lived many lives. I've been a professional drummer and a filmmaker. I've been a software engineer across like all sorts of different industries and tech stacks and landscapes. So I've sort of been all over the place. There's a handful of other things that I've done, but Trezy actually comes from. So it is a nickname, but it's what everybody calls me. It's what my wife calls me. It's what my kids call me. But it does come. It's actually on my birth certificate, even though it's a nickname, right? So my real full name is actually officially is actually, let me back up and I'll start at the beginning of the story. So when I was born, right, I was born in Texas. My dad wanted me to be the third, right? He wanted to continue on the family name. He wanted me to be Charles Edgar Peebles the third. My mom said, absolutely not, stupid name. And so they went back and forth. And I was, we're not far from the Mexico border. So she was like, you know what? Okay, here's what we'll do. We'll call him that, but nobody will ever hear that name. We're actually going to give him a nickname right out of the gate, and that's what we're going to call him. My dad agreed. So the nickname, because I was the third, was going to be Trace, right? Trey,
Yep.
three in Spanish.
Yeah,
And so,
Trace, yep.
so that's actually what was on my birth certificate is Charles Edgar Trey in parentheses Peebles the third. Okay, but so
wow.
that's the start. And then at some point when I was doing my filmmaking stuff, I did a lot of stunt work, right? So I did a lot of action indies. I did like driving stunts, like rock climbing stunts, rappelling, and all sorts of stuff. But there was one, we had like no budget. I was riding on the top of a car, just hanging on with like no restraints or anything. It was a terrible, terrible idea. Only an idiot would do it. And well, there I was. So I did that and I got off. And all the people who have like, it's indie filmmaking, you don't get a lot of stunt work, right? It's not like real stuff. And so everybody was like, wow, that was absolutely crazy. And of course, somebody, I don't even remember who it was. I wish I could attribute it, but they put them together. They're like, oh, it's Trey and it's crazy and it's Trezy. So you're going to be Trezy.
Okay, this is lore I've never heard before because I see your GitHub username, your GitHub handle, everything, like everything.
It's
Trezy.
everywhere,
and I'm
it's
like,
just
I
me.
guess his name is Trezy. I'm like, I was like, that's a cool name, but no, there's a whole like lore behind this. All right, we need to now we need to turn this into a film. Okay,
there you go. So the full actual legal name is actually Lord Charles Edgar Trezy Peebles the third.
Wait, Lord Charles? Wait.
Lord, yeah,
what?
because I'm
okay, all right.
because
Wait,
I'm a Scottish landowner.
Do you have a castle? Like, does your family have a castle or something like that?
It's maybe like a sandcastle at best.
All right. It's wintertime, so maybe
it's one
maybe
square foot.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, it's 1 square foot of Scottish land, and that makes you a Scottish landowner, and thus you are a lord. That's the whole thing. So Lord Charles Edgar Trezy Peebles III is my full technical name, but please only ever call me Trezy.
I love it, man. I absolutely love it. That is like amazing. And it's funny enough, actually, because I have your IMDb pulled up as well. I have your IMDb pulled up, and then I also have like your GitHub pulled up as well too. And sort of like jumping into that, right? Well, before we like, what was that transition like going from like, again, like the arts of like, you said drumming, right? So like I keep wanting to say fine arts because I played cello, right? But I get, drumming is a fine.
I'm sorry. Are you saying? Okay, I see snooty cello guy over here. No. You're right.
But right. What was that transition like going from, film and percussion to, you know, to then being a developer and even maintaining being a maintainer for a relatively popular like open source project, PixieJS.
Yeah. So it wasn't so much a transition like just from arts to engineering. It was actually I got into computers, when I was little. Through high school, I was pretty sure that's what I was going to do. I did that through college stuff, but I was also doing the drumming at that point, and so that's where the professional drumming part came in. After college, there's only so much money to be made as a musician, right? So so I took roles as a software, as a software engineer. And that was sort of where my career really began. And then at some point during my software career, I sort of decided I was kind of bored with it, and I took a couple of years off to get into filmmaking. I decided I was really, really enjoying like the creative aspects of it, of editing, of using cameras, directing, like I said, the stunt work and stuff. And so I took a little sabbatical to just get into that. Worked with a bunch of local indie filmmakers here in the Madison, Wisconsin area. Had a lot of fun with that. But then again, there's only so much money to be made in indie films. And when I say so much, it's actually so little. There's so little to be made in indie films. And so I sort of abandoned that industry, and it still sort of sits in the back of my mind. Sometimes I'm like, that'd be fun to get back into, but man, I don't know. Also, I'm a lot older now. I don't know that I want to hold onto the top of any moving vehicles.
You can.
So yeah. I mean,
it might hurt a bit when you fall off, but you can. You know,
yeah.
Anything's possible.
I could do it at least once.
Yeah, no, you have to.
Yeah, so then it was back to software engineering, and that's sort of been my career ever since. Probably 10, 11 years ago was when I got my first taste of like getting into open source, not just using open source software, but actually like building and publishing and maintaining open source software. I got involved with the Marionette.js team, which was back in the heyday of Backbone.js as a front end framework.
Yep.
Marionette was a view layer sort of on top of that. Or on top of Backbone. So I hang my hat sort of on my contribution there, which was elementless regions. It's not something that anybody would remember at this point because it's completely insignificant, but I'm just saying it was the basis that became React fragments. I'm just saying.
Oh, word. Okay, hold on now. I mean, hey, all right now. Please elaborate.
Well, I mean, it's without getting too terribly technical, it's just about controlling like a group of content within markup without having like a wrapping container, right? So it's just you've got like a JavaScript, a chunk of JavaScript that's controlling a group of objects rather than a single object. And it's not like, it's not mind blowing how, especially not these days, right? But back then it was tougher, right? Nobody was doing anything like that. And I was very big on semantic markup. Making sure that your HTML was as minimal as it could be. And so I didn't like all these extra divs everywhere. And so I invented elementless regions in Marionette to solve that issue.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah. So that's sort of where my start in open source was at. And then, I've built and published and been involved with a bunch of different open source projects since then. Like you said, I'm working on PixieJS React right now. I'm the core maintainer for that. Previously, I've worked on like NES.CSS was a pretty big one. I ran the Next Safe project, which was a tool for adding like content security policies to your websites on Next.js apps before Vercel added it directly to Next. Yeah.
Man, that is absolutely amazing. And so again, I'm thinking about this, right? And you discussed. Well, first off, that is actually really cool. You've definitely got some some groundwork. You like the groundwork in terms of like the ideations and implementations of certain things that we've built off, like that we use. Like I use React fragments in like all of my like applications, right? And and then content CSPs as well too. So that and like any of my So this is all like really interesting. So I had no idea about that. So I'm really curious to know, right? PixieJS is for typically for game development, right? A lot of folks have used it for game development, right? What made you want to sort of like no one, I guess, like no one's like, I want to maintain that, it's sure it made people, was this something that was like accidental? Was this something you're just like,
sure.
PixieJS is pretty cool. We kind of need a React version, right? Or something for React, like what all happened there? Wanting to.
So there's a couple of pieces there. So first off, PixieJS absolutely gets used for game development, but it's more often it's just used for interactive stuff on the web right now. I mean, the web is all interactive these days, but it's like interactive 2D animated things. PixieJS React was around before I took over, right? Somebody else wrote the original version, and it was really solid. But last year, maybe the year before, PixieJS, the core library, released version 8, and it was a major overhaul, and the existing version of PixieJS React did not work with it. So that sort of laid the groundwork for where I would end up. Because I like making games. I've always loved games, playing games, game development, whatever. Sort of my very first earliest project in programming was like a choose your own adventure game, web game. Long time ago, like no JavaScript interactivity or anything.
Mine was in C++ and just a bunch of if statements, So
first one, Hey man, that's how you start, right?
Yeah,
that's where you start.
See, that's all what LLMs are. Anyway, let me stop.
It's just a bunch of if statements.
Just a bunch of if statements, But anyway.
When it comes down to it, that's just what all software is. Really, it's just a bunch of if statements.
A bunch of if statements,
So that was sort of the groundwork for what would drive me. So I like games. I like game development. I was building a game at the time, still building it, but I was building a game, and I was using PixieJS, and I was using PixieJS React, and I was running into some issues that I knew were solved in PixieJS V8. I was like, I really want to be able to use that, but of course the library is like the biggest hindrance for me. And so the original developer has sort of moved on. I don't know where they're at now, of PixieJS React. And so I had sort of looked at it and I was like, okay, I've done plenty of projects like this. What would it look like to upgrade this to work with V8? And of course, while I was looking at that, React 19 also dropped, and so it's like, okay, well, what does it look like to also support like the newest version of React, which was a major overhaul? And
I was actually going to ask that because like React 19 was a major overhaul from 18 to 19. Some really great. So I mean, you have that on top of like PixieJS is like major overhaul as well. So you were like fighting a two front battle essentially. For this project, it seems.
So I was like, I don't, I've got to, if I want to keep using this, I need to find a way to get this happening. So I was posting in the PixieJS server and being like, hey, is anybody working on this? And they're like, well, we want to. I was like, oh, well, that tells me everything I need to know. And so I wrote like a really simple version of a PixieJS React renderer from scratch, right now, based on the original. And it went like a lot deeper than the previous version of it. Like it had actually integrated, I wrote or integrated directly with the React reconciler, wrote my own reconciler to work with that. And then pushed it up and was starting to use it. And then Zai from the PixieJS core team reached out to me and was like, hey, you want to come like just do that for real? Like you want to take over and do that one? I was like, I mean, I guess. I I mean, I was just going to do this for me, but if you say so. So yeah, so I took a step back and looked at it, and it was a major overhaul from the previous versions. I was like, okay, well, we should add things like TypeScript support and all this jazz, the custom reconciler and everything. Yeah, and it just sort of grew from there. There were a couple of folks, a handful of folks really in the PixieJS server that were really excited about the work getting done and being able to use, PixieJS V8 with React or within React World. So I had a lot of support there and a lot of folks testing out the code. And then I think I finally published it in like February of last year. We had PixieJS React V8. Reception was great. And now I just try to keep up with keeping it maintained.
That's awesome, man. And for for maintenance and whatnot, is that like, I mean, what does that look like for you with PixieJS React with that repo? Is it like a daily thing? Is that something you're like, okay, like what's the cadence of you having to if people filing issues and you having to put up PRs or reviewing PRs and whatnot? Is that something you have to do daily? Does it get overwhelming, or is it pretty lax? Like, hey, I can go a few days or maybe a week without having to without things just like lighting on fire. Like what does that look like for you as a just maintaining?
Yeah, I'll say I definitely should be looking at it daily, but I'm not. Realistically, I have a bunch of other projects that I'm onto at this point. So I have another maintainer that joined in after we released, Justin, who's been great, and he's helped out with a lot of that sort of stuff. So, a lot of the when I'm really busy, there's a lot of folks every day posting in the PixieJS server, looking for help and support. There's a couple of folks in there that help out. Justin has helped me out a handful with like the triage of tickets and such. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely daily work to be done. I'm just not around to do it. So yeah. I mean, I am still sort of the final say on a lot of the work that gets done, right? So when somebody pushes some stuff, Justin will often do the triage, but wait for me to get a final look before we actually pull the trigger on merging anything, just because I again built it from scratch, right? So there's a lot of knowledge that's that tribal knowledge that's hard to like just recall if you didn't build it.
Yep, that's awesome, man. And so sort of even moving forward, right? I remember we like briefly discussed the use of AT Proto. So BlueSky, right? Was it the protocol by BlueSky? My goodness, I almost said BlueSky. I can't English well, man. I TypeScript or I JavaScript better than English. My goodness. Okay.
You know what? Some days that's just
some
what
days
you get.
It's just like that, man. It's just like that. Yeah. So, but I know we discussed about game development and like your game, and one thing that you stated that I thought really stuck out to me even with that was that you've been diving into AT Proto recently, and the implications, I guess, like just using that like within your game, so integrating that within like your game and whatnot. Like, what is that? Can you tell me first off why, and also two, what does that look like, right? Like, so I'd love to know.
Yeah. So taking a step, I guess I sort of got to take a step back to really explain the both of those. So the why is I joined BlueSky in relatively early days, not super early, but relatively early. During they were still in the invite code era.
Oh yeah, yep, same here. Yep.
So I joined during that period. Really liked BlueSky. I thought I had legs, a lot of potential to be like sort of the replacement for Twitter, as we saw all of that sort of going downhill. And then so I got involved with the platform, really enjoyed it. And then not long after I joined, they released their feature called feeds. And the idea is essentially anybody can create a feed and publish a feed, right? So your algorithmic choice comes from that. It comes from democratization of content distribution. And so I started building a feed for game developers. There wasn't one yet. Again, we were still very early days. I mean, less than 20, 30,000 people on the platform. So I poked around to see if there was any interest, any other game developers on the platform. I found a handful. I was like, you know what? Why not? This will be a fun experiment. Today I run the 4 or 5 largest game development feeds on the platform because they were just early, right? So I run those, and that was a very big step into AT Proto for me because it. I don't know that we've seen a platform before that really democratizes and decentralizes like ownership, like AT Proto does. AT Proto, of course, being the network behind BlueSky, not actually BlueSky. BlueSky is just another application that uses AT Proto.
Yeah, it's like built on top of it. Yep, built really on top of the Proto.
Yeah, exactly.
AT Proto. Yep.
Yeah, so I built the feeds, and then I don't know, maybe 6-8 months, something like that later, I built the games industry labeler. So they released what they call stackable moderation, which is essentially you have different accounts that have some sort of system behind them. They can emit these events on AT Proto for labeling content. And then users can decide which labelers to subscribe to, right? So I can decide what moderation I'm interested in, which is a really cool concept. A handful of people were using them for what they called positive labeling. So rather than labeling like not safe for work or spam, porn, that sort of stuff, they were doing things like, well, here's the pronoun labeler. So pick which pronouns you use and we'll add that on you as a label. And then, until BlueSky eventually decides to add pronouns to bios, that's how we'll share each other's pronouns and whatnot. So there were a handful of different ones. There were some like adventure RPG style labels, right? So it was like, okay, you sign up and it'll label you with like what your current state is and stuff like that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I decided to start up the games industry labeler, and the idea was just to give labels to folks in the industry, right? Make it easier for us to identify each other across the platform. There turned out to be quite a bit of interest in that. Today, I think we've labeled more than 7,000 accounts.
That's amazing.
As industry professionals. So we label like developers, studios, individual games, publishers, journalists, content creators, like across the whole industry of video games.
Yep. That's amazing.
And so then there's the verification aspect of it. So Twitter has their verification. It's shot, right? You pay some money and you're verified. BlueSky didn't have anything along those lines. So I started doing verification for what I considered protected labels on the labeler. So like journalists and studios, entities that I'm like, if they're impersonated or misrepresented, it could be damaging within the industry, right? So I started doing verification on those people. Journalists need to send me like a muckrack profile and things like that.
How does the verification process essentially work? I'm really curious about that, right? So I asked of this because I remember I actually did like a rough implementation at my time when I was at Microsoft for their certs and all that stuff, trying to build out a verifiable credentials. So like, implementing that, like that specification and whatnot in a prototype, utilizing that. Like, I'm curious, like if you remember, right? I know there's been a lot.
I do.
I was going to say, how did that whole verification process like work? What did you inherently use as like the as like a node or whatever to spark the verification? Anyway, I'll stop talking.
No, you're good.
I'm really curious about
I
this.
use it. So I still do it. I still do the verification daily. It's a manual process for every single account that applies for a manual or for a verified label. I have a bot set up for chat, so you can chat with the bot, the labeler account, and it'll apply like the non-verified labels to you automatically. I don't have any intervention with that, but verified ones, it'll ask you for some links for verification, and then it sends them back to our moderation backend, which is Ozone, which is the same moderation software that BlueSky uses for the rest of the platform for their main moderation tools. So that gets sent back to me in Ozone. I check it every day. I look for unresolved reports. I see what's your verification, right? So for journalists, I'm looking like a verified muckrack profile or like an author page on a publication that has a link back to their BlueSky profile, proving it's this one, whatever, right? Things like that. Game studios, I'm looking like make sure your handle is updated to your domain, or make sure that your website has a link back to this BlueSky account, stuff like that, right? So just like you have to give me something that allows me to verify that you are who you're saying that you are, and then I'll give you the verified labels. So that's how that sort of works. So yeah, joined BlueSky, built the feeds, built the labeler. So I've had a fair number of interactions with AT Proto at this point. And then last year, the games industry ran into a pretty big issue. I don't know if you saw this come across, but basically payment process. So there's a radical group in Australia called Collective Shout, who was putting pressure on payment processors to stop processing payments for Steam and itch and other games platforms if they continued to sell like not safe for work, porn, erotic games, right? So that resulted in Steam delisting a bunch of games. It resulted in a huge issue on itch where thousands of, maybe tens of thousands of games were delisted and then reviewed and never relisted. It disproportionately impacted, marginalized folks like trans people and creators of color and things like that. And so, regardless of whether you have any personal interest in those types of games, I still think they deserve to exist, right? Like developers deserve to be able to make what they like. And so I hated that. I was upset about it. I posted on BlueSky, and of course somebody replied being like, you should make itch, but on AT Proto. And I was like, nah, that sounds bad. I don't want to do that.
That sounds pretty complicated. That sounds pretty complex.
Sounds like a lot of work.
It sounds like a lot of work.
And then of course it became a brainworm and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So, so over the past few months, I've noodled on like what that would look like and how that would work and how we could actually leverage AT Proto to support game developers and the games industry as a whole in such a way that they're safe from issues like this, at least, right? Where they can be delisted, where they can be removed from deplatformed, things like that. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm building two different things. I'm building the AT Proto lexicons for video games, and I'm building the Pentaract. And saying those names out loud means nothing, so I'm happy to get into what those actually are.
I was like, okay, all right, okay. Please do elaborate. Please do elaborate. Okay.
Yeah. So AT Proto, right? Decentralized and distributed network architecture. So the idea is, I, as a user, have this idea of a credible exit. So when I like another post, when I make a post, when I upload an image or a video or anything like that, when I repost something, all of those actions get stored as a little piece of JSON in what's called my repo, right? My repo is managed by something called a PDS, or a personal data server. So that personal data server, most people are using the PDSs run, or the main PDS run by BlueSky, right? But anybody can run a PDS. You can self-host it. You can use one that somebody else is running. You're not locked into anyone. That's the idea of a credible exit, right? I can take my entire repo from BlueSky and I can migrate it to Black Sky, or I can migrate it to Which Sky, or whatever, right? So I have this idea that like I own my data and I can take it where I please. So what the way that those repos work is that they have those likes, those reposts, those posts, those all have a standard schema, right? They're defined as lexicons. And so the majority of these are written and managed by BlueSky. But they basically tell us what's the shape of data that gets stored in the repo. Beyond those lexicons, I can store pretty much any arbitrary data in a repo, right? So I can decide to store a sandwich in there as data if I can find a way to do it, right? I actually wrote up a lexicon for a sandwich to explain this concept to my daughter the other day. So I can store sort of whatever I want in there. But if I want other people to be able to use it, then I can write up a lexicon that defines the shape of that. And now there's opportunity for like cross-platform usage of this data that gets stored in a user's repo. So that's what lexicons are. Sort of the short version. They tell us the shape of data that lives in a user's repo on the AT Proto. So I've been writing the video game lexicons, and these are the first one is just defining what is a game in a lexicon. So here's the name, here's the description, here's the box art, here's the screenshots, right? Here's the basics, here's who made it. Here's the basics that you need to understand what a game is. And this is all based on the data that exists in IGDB right now, the Internet Games Database. The idea being that when I, as a game developer, create my game, if I want to publish it elsewhere, then I'm going to have to go to Steam, and I'm going to have to go to Epic Game Store, and I'm going to have to go to Itch and Humble and Good Old Games and all these different platforms, and I'm going to have to put in different data, and I'm going to have to put it into IGDB. And once it's reviewed and accepted, I have no control over it. I can suggest changes, but I don't actually have direct control over my data there. But with AT Proto, if you define your games there, then you do have direct control over your data and the most up-to-date version of it. Platforms that leverage it may do their own like caching layer, review layer, whatever, but you have control of the core data. So as a game developer, I can define my game. I have control of my data. I get data sovereignty, right? I have ownership over that. And then expanding from that, I'm looking at things like being able to define achievements on AT Proto, right? That's sort of a low-hanging fruit. Like a game has an achievement for your first 100 apples eaten or whatever, right? And so I define the achievement in the games repo, and then I define like when I, as a user, eat my first 100 apples, I get a little record in my repo that says I got that achievement, right? And so that's sort of what we're doing, is looking at the different pieces of like games infrastructure that can be really easily supported by AT Proto, and then figuring out how we can leverage those to support developers having ownership and sovereignty over their data, and also users having sovereignty over their data. So like my save games get stored there, my achievements get stored there. If I'm a speed runner, my speed runs get stored there with an attestation so that I can't modify the data by myself, right? So that's what the video game lexicons are. It encompasses a lot. Like, it's a really, really big idea, but the short version is data sovereignty for game developers and for players.
I see. And so what essentially would be the end result? Would it be like, I guess, like a compilation of this, like, I guess, like creating your own after you've created the lexicon, right? Is it then like creating an algorithm that, and then like having a feed essentially, or like, as you said, like, HI, like having the whole website, right? Having a website that essentially you interact with, like, like what is this sort of, I'm really curious to know like what the end result of this would essentially look like.
So the end result is very up in the air. I have like an idea of what I expect it to look like, right? But I don't know how realistic that is. What I know the next step is actually the Pinteract, the other piece that I'm building, which is a tool. Right now, the first version is just a tool for developers to create their games on AT Proto, right? Get their games information up there. And then also an ingestion engine that takes everything from IGDB, writes it into AT Proto on an account that I'm managing, but then makes it possible for game developers to claim their games so that they can move it to their own. They have that data ownership.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's the first step, right? Is getting the Pinteract done and then creating an IGDB alternative there. So essentially, unless IGDB wants to, just take advantage of this too, I'd also be on board with that. But right, so like an IGDB alternative. So essentially an index of all of the games available on AT Proto so that users can go and surf and see. You're right. From there, an API so that other platforms can take advantage of that data. So anybody already using IGDB can really easily take advantage of the data from AT Proto. So if IGN wants to use AT Proto data to display the latest on a game rather than pulling it from IGDB to show the box art, they can do that, right?
Right.
I'm already talking to a couple of other platforms about taking advantage of this data once it exists. So we'll see at least a few platforms within the next couple of months that are leveraging this data as it comes out. So that's pretty exciting. I'm excited about that.
It's really exciting. It's really exciting. I think that's nice. Actually, that's really, really nice. Again, I mean, I guess that's the whole premise of, like, again, you said like Web 5, right? But making it easier for folks to take all of that, again, the verified data, whatever it is, just having all your data and just moving it to different platforms that support that functionality, man. And, that's really nice. Instead of having to go through a whole verification process. Oh, well, let me go and take all my stuff here. Let me try to, I don't know, like, oh, here's the website. Oh, here's a list of all my games, right? And it's just like, wait, no, everything's here. It's just plug and play, just boom. And you don't have to worry about, you don't have much to worry about. So that is really cool. I can't wait to see what platforms integrate it, man. That means I'm going to be following up with you. And by summer, I'm going to be following up with you in summer to know how things are going, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Not to give you a dedeadline. Okay. As developers, we don't like deadlines. Okay. Just to check in. Okay. I promise you, just to check in.
Okay.
Like, hey,
all
how's
right.
it going?
All right.
Things going pretty well. You know
what? So but if I don't answer, you know why. Okay. I'm just
I'll add it to like my list of it'll be unfinished project 159. No, let me stop.
Yeah. Oh no. Don't talk about unfinished projects. We can't talk about that. That's not something engineers are comfortable with.
It's like, I have to see. Oh man, I'm like, don't look at my GitHub. Okay.
Oh no.
I have an unfinished game engine that it's like from literally 11 years ago that I
just went through and archived a bunch of stuff from mine and from some various orgs that I made. I'm like, no, these should stay secret now.
Yeah, I should do the same.
Nobody needs to know that I didn't finish that.
That was like my really ugly unfinished game engine and some others 2D game and just some other stuff too. And I'm like, oh man, this is rough. I was like, I'll get back to it eventually. You just never do. But no, but aside from that though, in all seriousness, I am really excited to see where where this takes you. And I think this will be something really great for especially the indie game dev community. So I mean, not even just indie game devs, but just the game developer community just in general. And so that's awesome. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
And so is this essentially, I guess, like last question for me? I guess there's two questions. One is I'll just start off with this one is like, is this essentially like, is this your 2026, man? Like, hey, trying to get this, trying to get this built, get this implemented. Like, what do you sort of have in store for 2026? For I guess like what you plan on executing on. I'm really curious to know.
Yeah, that's such a big open question. And honestly, it's tough. I was actually, I'm looking for my next role right now. Yep. So I actually don't know. I don't know. I'm floating on for a little bit. Taking some time to work on this project because it's fun and it's interesting to me. And I think there's a lot of opportunity here. If I can find some form of funding to keep working on it, then I may take advantage of that. Realistically, I'm looking for my next role. So that's probably what my 2026 has. But I would love to see where this project goes. I think one of the AT Proto has this opportunity to distribute ownership and control to a lot of different people across a very vast network, right? And so I think that makes it so super duper interesting, and the way that people using AT Proto have taken advantage of the other things that have come out. That's where I'm like, I have no idea what the end goal of this looks like, right? Because like, who knew that people were going to use tools intended to take down inappropriate content to share their pronouns or to mark themselves as game developers and studios. So I'm excited to see what other people do once this data starts to become available, once the APIs come out, and once it is like really easy for other people to take advantage of. I'm excited for it. So that's awesome, that's what I really look forward to in 2026.
Awesome. Dude, that is absolutely amazing. 10 out of 10, man. That is awesome. And last but not least, as I said, again, you being an open source maintainer and even just in general for folks who want to, whether it be contributed open source or just start their own, I guess like start their own like project or whatnot, like what tips do you have? I know now, look, I'm like, boom, can you name some tips? Yeah. But like, what tips do you have for individuals who want to actively, contribute? And I mean, again, it could be from filing issues, like PRs, whatever it is, right? You're an open source maintainer. Like what does that look like? What tips can you give to folks, to the masses?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my advice to the masses, the first thing I'd say is just do it, right? A lot of folks will hem and haw and can't decide what's like the right thing to do. And I think one of the best things that you can do is like, if you have an idea, even if it's a bad one, just start on it, right? And if you don't finish it, that's also okay, right? We talked about the unfinished projects earlier, but
we'll get Claude to use it. We'll get Claude, to finish it up.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. All right. There we go.
But I have a talk written that I haven't actually gotten to give anywhere yet, but it's about failing to finish a project is not just fine, it's valuable, right? Like it's important to be able to experiment and to be able to start a project and say, it doesn't matter if I finish this, right? This is an opportunity for learning, for exploration, for experimentation. So like take the opportunity to just try things. If you get halfway and you don't like it, then stop and do something different, right? But like try something. And contribute to open source maintainers. Most maintainers love contributions. I love contributions, and I have a lot of projects, so come contribute to my projects. But in general, like open issues, make RFCs. If you have an idea, post it. Right. The worst thing that happens is somebody's going to say no. Honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. Start your own, fork it, and build it. I don't know, but
I like that.
Just get started.
That. Some good, get started, and it doesn't matter if you finish or not. It's actually funny because at Harper, right, one thing that's again how I got better with just in general, right, I love experimenting, right. Oh hey, like I wanted to know, even for like my job, like interacting with our APIs, with our platform, I'm like, man, like I don't have to always, in general, right, this is something I've always done, right, but just not to like build out a project end to end, right? I just want to be able to experiment with some stuff, have some fun, and even when you do build something, it doesn't have to be big. It can be something really small. And utilizing that for like reference later. I've done that a lot even in the past with other projects. People are like, oh man, I want to build out I think it was like doing something like using some sort of like JavaScript, even like web API. And I'm like, oh, I actually built out a really small, like, version of this.
A little utility.
Like, utility or whatever, implementation of this, like here, boom, here's my little repo, whatever. Right. And it's like a few JavaScript files or whatever it is, 1 or 2 JavaScript files, and all vanilla JS, and boom, here you are, and stuff like that. So that's the power of experimentation and being okay with not always having to complete every little project to do wonders. So.
Yeah. And talking about starting small, man, it's such an important thing, especially if you're looking at game dev, right? If game dev is something that folks want to get into, like the first project that everyone wants to build is either a game engine or an MMO. And like
I feel called out. I feel so called out, man. I feel so called out. All right, I remember this too.
I don't remember you saying anything about a game engine.
When I first started in high school, when I first started in high school, man, I started doing like using Unreal Engine 3, right? And I'm like, I'm gonna build a AAA game, or I want to build an MMO. First off, don't. That's like saying I want to build out.
Just don't.
The first rule of MMOs is don't. Okay.
Yep. It's a very important rule too. I know one person that has successfely built a really good
Hordes.io, the guy you're talking
about. Hordes,
yeah. He rewrote his entire he actually ended up rewriting his own his own engine and like everything. Like actually his own he didn't use 3JS. He like wrote his own framework and all that different stuff from scratch.
And it's so performant. It's so fast. It looks gorgeous.
I've never seen such a performant in browser like game in my life, which is amazing. I was like, whoa, Hordes.io for y'all if y'all want to check that out. But that was pretty phenomenal. It's really great. I'm really curious to know like what it's running on too.
So I'd like tiny servers. Really? You should talk to Deck and get him to talk about open source stuff. But he because I talked to him about it last year for some work stuff. And he was like, I'm running on like a couple of small servers. I've got like one in the US East and one in Asia Central or something like that. I was like, are you serious right now?
What? I was like, again, I was always intrigued because I'm like, you wrote your own rendering engine from scratch. And I'm just like, man, like, and it's so performant. I'm like, how did you do this? So I will have to get him on the podcast. You got to give me an intro. Please do.
Okay, I can do that.
I tweeted him once and he never responded, and I'm sure he does. He probably gets tons of messages. Okay, if you're watching this now, buddy, don't worry. I don't take it personal. Okay. Fast, quick. Yeah. So, because I think it was around the time I think I joined Harper, because I was like, this is now like Harper definitely fueled my obsession with like, again, this is not like me trying to, but it like fueled my obsession with like, I want to be like, things have to be fast, things have to be quick, right?
Yes.
And that's kind of what we do. And I'm like, and then I saw Hordes.io, and I'm like, how did he do this? Like we do fast stuff here, and like just in the dev, just like web dev stuff, applications. But I'm like
a whole other level.
Game development. I'm like, you wrote your own rendering engine, my friend. Please, please give a course, something. All right, I want to know. So
but just remember, he's the exception, not the rule. The first rule of MMO is don't. It's just still don't. Just don't.
Anyway, Trezy, it has been an absolute joy having you on this podcast. Don't be a stranger, and please, like, as I said, I'll have to come back out to this, man. It's just been an absolute joy. And this entire
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, this entire interview has just been so insightful, and I greatly appreciate your time. And dude, as I said, I hope you have a phenomenal day. And
thanks so much. You as well, Austin. I really appreciate you having me. It's been fun to chat. It's always fun to hang out and chat. Nice to talk to some people about this stuff.
Now we got to play some games, okay? All right.
Yes,
we got to play some.
Please.
After this, we'll just play some games, okay?
There we go.
Minecraft.
That's what we'll do.
I don't know. Minecraft, Destiny, or something like that.
It's got to be something simple. My main gaming rig is busted. Oh no.
Okay, all right. Minecraft. Okay, there we go. Minecraft. There we go. See, Minecraft's always a great default.
Done.
Okay,
easy.
There we go. Boom. Why not? All right. Anyway, man, have an amazing day. All right.
All right. Thanks so much. You as well. Thanks, Austin.
Thank you. Bye.